This is John Butero back with a new video. And today I want to do a little bit of election analysis and some reasons why I think the election turned out the way it did, with Donald Trump prevailing over Kamala Harris by a lot more than I think most people thought was going to happen. Going into the election, I really had no idea based on polling what was going to be the outcome of that election. The polling was all over the place, and some of the polls were fairly accurate. I thought Rasmussen did a really good job with most of their polls, but there were other polls that were out there that were clearly trying to prop up Kamala Harris, and they were giving her better numbers than what she should have gotten. There was that poll that came out in Iowa indicating that suddenly she was leading by 3 points, and I knew that that poll was nonsense when I saw it. And it was clearly a propaganda poll that was designed just to prop her up, and they were willing to take a hit if they were wrong. And they were even trying to propagate the notion that it was a result of all these women voters coming out. And that was, playing into some of the other things that were being said out there about how all this mass number of women were going to come out to vote just over nothing but the abortion issue. And of course, it turned out not to be true. But really, it was considered to be a very close election going in, and a lot of the numbers were pretty close in a lot of areas. But I think it surprised a lot of people that Donald Trump had prevailed as well as he did, to the point where that this isn't being drug out for days or weeks. We knew who the winner was last night, which I'm very thankful for, because I don't know how much more of these drawn out elections I can handle. I mean, it's enough to keep your blood pressure up there sky high, waiting on the results. So I'm glad it turned out that we had the clear cut results last night. And it looks like Donald Trump's going to win the popular vote as well as winning the electoral college vote. So it's just a clean win. I want to talk to you about why that it happened, what the most likely reasons are, as far as I'm concerned. One thing I do want to address, though, even before I get into some of the other actual reasons I think that Trump did win, it's been kind of speculated out there that voters are not ready for a female president, and that's the reason. And then they were saying that the Democrats have nominated a woman twice over the last three elections, and both of them lost. And they're wondering, is that the reason that they lost, that people just don't want a woman president? I would say that her being a woman may have cost her some votes, but I don't think it cost her any more votes than it probably gained her. I think that there's some that would vote for her just because she is a woman, and then there's others that would vote for her because vote against her because she's a woman. I think it kind of goes both ways. The reason why they lost, whether we were talking about Hillary or Kamala Harris, is they were bad candidates, and for different reasons. Um, Hillary Clinton's problems were just that the American people didn't agree with her on the issues, and she comes across as a very dishonest person, much like her husband does. And I think that people just really didn't want her as the president. And then with Kamala Harris, um, she is somebody who comes across as not really that smart, not smart enough to be the president, not prepared or ready to be the president. And if it wasn't for the fact that Kamala Harris had become the vice president because simply Joe Biden picked her for whatever reason, she wouldn't have ever gotten into this position, because she could have never earned that spot as the nominee under normal circumstances. She could have never won a primary if it had been a long drawn out primary, because there's too many better choices that they could have made that could at least have answered some questions. So my feeling is that it's not really so much about her being a woman. I think that excuse me, I think that her being a woman certainly cost her some votes, but I think there's a lot of women that voted for her just because she's a woman, and there's probably even some men that did just to try to make history. It's kind of like when Barack Obama was running for president. There's people that may have not voted for him because he's black, but there was a lot that voted for him to make history, and to try to prove that racism no longer exists in America. So they voted for him just because he was a black candidate. So my feeling is no, it's not because she's a woman. But I am going to give you the reasons I think that Donald Trump won. And the number one reason, the economy, or as was said back in the campaign when Bill Clinton was running, it's the economy, stupid, is what he would have said was the reason why that he was doing well and won his election, because the economy is the major reason for why people vote for the president. When we go out and we go to the store and we see massive inflation, to the point where that our grocery bill has doubled in some cases. And then we go down to the gas station, try to fill up our car, and gasoline's costing more than double what it had before. And housing prices are through the roof, rent prices are through the roof. These kind of things add up. I mean, it really hurts the average person out here. And so I feel like that the economy was the number one reason, probably, why people voted for Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. I also think that another reason is because of concerns over warmongering and a type of policy that Biden and Harris have been doing, that are right on the verge of having us in a war with Russia and China. Now, by no means do I feel like that we should be passive if the American people are threatened by another country. If we are threatened directly and we have a direct national interest in something that's going on, we have to stand up for the American people, and the military may have to get involved. But the problem with it is that people with the mindset of Harris and Biden, they want to meddle in things that don't directly concern the United States of America. It's costing the taxpayers a lot of money propping up Ukraine. And it's really something that is not really in our direct interest. It's nothing that we need to be involved in. And it's on the verge of getting us into an unnecessary war. Whereas Donald Trump is trying to bring about peace, they are doing nothing but escalating war. And all that problem that's going on over there with Iran and Israel, a lot of that is the fault of the Biden and Harris administration, too, because they gave a lot of money to Iran. Iran turned around and used that money to make war with Israel. So one of the reasons I think that Donald Trump prevailed is because people simply want to put an end to war, not escalate the chances of us getting into a war. So that's another reason I think that Donald Trump won. Another reason I believe is because of environmental extremism on the part of Biden and Harris, to the point where that they are sacrificing American jobs, and that we're losing jobs because American companies cannot compete with all the regulations that they put on them. And it's costing us a ton of money trying to having to go around, meeting all these new environmental regulations. Is jacking up the prices of energy in our homes. It's also making car prices go through the roof. And they're even trying to do away with gasoline powered cars and trying to eventually get everybody over to electric vehicles. And so I think that a lot of people are concerned over that. And of course, they've also, been putting a stop to fracking. I know Kamala Harris claiming suddenly she's changed her mind on that to get votes in Pennsylvania, but who believes her? She's got no credibility whatsoever. So I think environmental extremism is another reason why that the American people decided to go with Donald Trump in this election. Then there's the issue of censorship. It's very well known that the current Democratic candidates, and even former ones like Hillary Clinton, are trying to censor anybody that doesn't agree with their side. So they're getting in there where they're meddling with all these places, such as even YouTube. Where I'm making these videos at. They want to force more censorship on them. They want to censor Facebook or anybody else that's out here, and they want to stop what they call misinformation. And so I think a lot of people are concerned about that, and about how that, you lose freedom of speech, you basically can lose your country. But they want to make it to where that we cannot say certain things anymore, and they'll label it as hate speech, or misinformation. And they'll say that all free speech is no longer protected in America for some reason. That's because they don't support it anymore. And I remember the days when liberals used to go around saying, I don't agree with you, but I would die to defend your right to say those things. Today's Democrats are just the exact opposite. And it's the Republicans that are the defenders of free speech. So I think a concern over censorship is another reason. I think that border security is a huge reason because people are getting tired of this flood of illegal immigrants coming in from south of the border, and they're not just being allowed to come in, but they're being brought in. I mean, even flown in by these people. They're doing everything they can to bring them into the country as fast as they can, and the idea is eventually they want to legalize all these people and make them American citizens on the fast track, with the hope that they will continue to vote for Democrats because they're the ones that brought them in. And people are seeing through this stuff now. And there's a lot of crime that has come into the United States because of these illegal immigrants. And so that's another reason why that I think that people have chosen Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. Then there is the issue of extremism concerning the LGBTQ community and some of the things they're doing. I realize that there's mixed feelings about some of the LGBTQ community's agenda. Now, I do believe that the American people, I don't think that they all are in favor of gay marriage, because I know that when we had a vote on it in my state, the majority of the people had voted against it overwhelmingly, and that was going on throughout most of the country. So I'm not even really going to say that even that part of their agenda is supported. But they've gone way beyond gay marriage. They've gone way beyond what they like to call marriage equality. They've gotten to the point now where they're trying to use taxpayer money to pay for prisoners to get sex change operations and illegal immigrants to get sex change operations. And they're also supporting transgender men being able to compete in women's sports as though they are now a woman. And it's creating a very unfair situation for women sports. I mean, it's totally ruined it for them. And a lot of people have been very upset about that. So I think that's another reason why that people chose to go with Donald Trump. And on the abortion issue, while you can say that it seems that the majority of Americans are not for a total ban on abortion, have you ever really looked at what the Democrats' actual position is on abortion? The Democrats' position on abortion, I'm talking about the majority of elected Democrats, and this includes Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. The majority want no limits whatsoever. So this means that even a viable child in the second and third trimester, all the way up to the time of birth, they support the woman having the right to choose to kill this child. And, I have been watching some videos recently of people that actually survived late term abortions. A woman had a doctor attempt to kill their unborn child, and somehow or another, the child managed to survive the abortion attempt and got out of the womb alive. And the problem is they also have health issues now, but this is a viable human being. I don't support abortion for any reason except the mother's life. And so I don't support it even in the first trimester. But a lot of Americans do. A lot of Americans will support it in the first trimester. But the Democrats' position is so extreme on abortion. I think if the American people really understood that, they wouldn't even support them on that. It's not a case of whether or not it should be legal in the first few weeks or the first trimester. We're talking about a party that is so extreme. Kamala Harris is so extreme on it. She thinks it should be legal all the way up until the ninth month, right up before the child is born, no restrictions whatsoever. That is Kamala Harris's position. It's the position of almost every elected Democrat that's out there. That is an extreme position. It's not in line with the majority of the American people. So I think that and Donald Trump did actually bring that up. I think J.D. Vance brought that up, that they actually pointed out their position on that. And I think some people are starting to wake up to it, what the Democrats' position really is. And while in the city areas, where the major population areas like a Los Angeles, a San Francisco, a New York, a Boston, places like that, are still going to keep voting Democrat and may even support these extreme positions. Your average American in the rural areas is not going to support that. And so I don't think the abortion issue gave them the advantage they thought they were going to get out of it. It may have helped them to get a lot of young single women to vote for Kamala Harris, but I don't think it was as widespread a support as what they were thinking. And they do try to keep it quiet as to how extreme their position is. They don't go around bragging about that they supported all the way through the ninth month. You don't hear that. It's just they just put the issue out there in a general sense. The other thing that I think was a reason why that people chose Donald Trump is they saw that Kamala Harris, some would say they used the term empty suit, that she's an empty suit, and that's probably a pretty good way to describe her. The woman is just flat out not that smart. People saw through it when they started listening to her. She is just nothing but talking points all the time. And she ran her campaign on the idea that I'm not Donald Trump. That was her whole campaign. Donald Trump, bad. I am his alternative. I'm the alternative to this bad, corrupt man who is going to be the next Hitler, she would say. And I think most people saw through that. We know he's not a Hitler. We know he's not a fascist. We know he's not any of the things they're saying. He's not even an extreme right winger. He is just somebody who's trying to go in there and fix problems. And the thing is that the the deep state doesn't want the problems fixed, and the globalists don't want the problems fixed. But Donald Trump's trying to fix the problems, and nobody wants that done. So I think the American people, though, as a whole, the majority of the voters saw through this, and they realized that Kamala Harris is just not that smart. And I don't say that lightly, and I'm not saying that. I mean, at this point, the election's over anyway. So I'm not saying this just to be insulting or anything like that. I'm just saying she's really not a very smart person. And I do think that the Democratic Party really made a mistake with choosing her as their nominee. I almost feel like that if they'd have left Biden in there and they hadn't shown him how bad he had gotten, how bad his decline had gotten in his mental state, that was all orchestrated, even down to the fact that that debate was fair against Donald Trump. It was a fair debate. That was all orchestrated because the whole time they were going to have Biden trotted out there, show his mental state had gotten supposedly so bad, and they were just even shocked by it. They didn't realize how bad he was. Of course, he's been having this problem through his entire presidency, and they covered it up. But now they're all shocked by it. Oh yeah, he's got to step down, and they pressured him to step down. It was all a scam, and then they put Kamala Harris in there as the nominee. I believe that they intended to put Kamala Harris in there from the very start. I think that was their intent, and I think they really wanted her as the president in the first couple of years. But nevertheless, that didn't happen. So they left Joe Biden in there, and of course, we know that it just got to a certain point. They just decided, you know what, we would be stronger with Kamala Harris than Biden. So how about we force him out of the race, and then we put Kamala Harris in there. Of course, I can't prove this. This is just my opinion, but I mean, it's obvious that's what I'm giving is my opinion. But from the way it looks to me like this was all orchestrated. That they were just trying to get rid of Joe Biden, and they were trying to bring in Kamala Harris. They thought was a stronger candidate. It would have been smarter for them to have done something in the way of some kind of a decision made on the candidate at the convention where they brought in different options, or maybe they had a mini primary, would have been smarter than just giving it to Kamala Harris. But nevertheless, they thought they'd get some quick unity. They thought they'd just kind of keep her hidden, and that would be enough. And the fact that she wasn't Donald Trump, that's be all it would take for the American people to choose her. But again, enough people saw through it. And what about all these people that voted for Kamala Harris? Look, in a sane country, Kamala Harris would have gone down in a landslide. But the only reason why Kamala Harris fared as well as she did is because people are partisans. And partisan liberals were going to vote for anybody that was the Democrat. Didn't matter who it was. They were always going to vote for the Democrat. And so she's going to get a certain number of votes anyway and going to look respectable in the outcome of the election no matter what. But she was a terrible candidate. And of course, the media and everybody had been just tearing down Donald Trump. They had thrown everything at him. It got to the point, really, where that actually hurt them. It hurt their credibility because the majority of the American people knew Donald Trump wasn't like that. And we've already seen him as president for 4 years. So we knew better. It probably did get some people out to vote against him out of fear, but I think the majority of sane people in this country knew that Donald Trump wasn't like that. They knew that Donald Trump wasn't going to come in there and end democracy. They knew that wasn't going to happen. And I'm going to tell you just the way I look at it. If Kamala Harris is an example of democracy, this is what democracy would get us in the United States, then maybe it's not worth even saving. Of course, I'm being kind of facetious when I say that, but I mean seriously. If that's what democracy would get us was a Kamala Harris, I mean that says something about democracy, and it makes you wonder how good democracy is. Of course, our democratic process did not get us Kamala Harris. The people of the country were smarter than that, and they didn't fall for it. But again, it does make me wonder. I've thought about that. Is this what democracy gets us? But anyway, those are my thoughts about why Donald Trump won the election. I will admit, I thought Donald Trump had a pretty good chance of winning, but I will admit that even I'm surprised that he won by the amount he did. I did think he was probably going to narrowly win, but I expected it to be closer to the point where that we would have, contested thing going on for at least the next few weeks. I am so thankful that that didn't happen. I say thank you, Jesus, that that didn't happen. Because my nerves were, I don't know if they could have took it for that long again. I remember what it was like going through the 2020 election, and it really, another person brought this up. It really isn't a normal part of American politics that elections are not decided on election night. Sometimes you have to wait late into the night to find out, but it's not a normal thing for them to be drug out for weeks. I mean, it happened in the year 2000 when the sore loserman ticket decided to contest that election over the situation down in Florida. And and of course it happened in 2020, but it's not the normal thing. And of course, 2016 we knew who the winner was. There was a lot of all this Russia's junk from Hillary Clinton, but we already knew who the winner was. And it's great that we have an election that we knew who the winner was on election night. I mean, I'm more than happy to stay up till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning watching results, but that's quite a different thing than waiting for weeks, for something to be drug out to find out who the winner is. But I'm glad that the election was decided on election night. And I'm very glad that Donald Trump wound up prevailing in this election because I really feel like he is the far better choice. And I think that America definitely needs to have a change because right now the American people are hurting something awful. I mean, people are working, but they're not working jobs that are paying enough to keep up with the inflation. And these policies of Harris, and she said she wasn't planning on doing anything much different than what Biden did, or she says she wouldn't have done anything hardly any different. And she couldn't give us any examples of anything she would have done different. And there's no reason to believe she would. And she really doesn't seem to have much of any kind of ideas. Her idea of the economy and the high prices, stop price gouging. I mean, seriously, that's supposed to be the answer. And her answer to raising more tax revenue is putting some kind of a tax on the rich people for wherever that the value of property and stuff like that goes up. That's supposed to take care of all of our financial problems with our deficit. I mean, any simpleton would know that that stuff won't work. And then promising to give people $25,000 to help them buy their first home. And nobody believes that's going to happen. And where's the money going to come from? So anyway, oh, and of course, let me add one more thing. Living in North Carolina, we've had thankfully in the county I live in, we weren't really hit by the hurricane, but just a very short distance to the west, they were devastated, and they didn't get any kind of help from the federal government. The federal government had already shipped all their money overseas, propping up Ukraine and sending money everywhere but where it's needed, sending money over to Iran. The federal government, the same federal government that's talking about with Kamala Harris giving out $25,000 so people could buy a down payment on a new home. They can't even afford to help people in need in these states that were devastated by a hurricane. But she's going to give everybody, the first time homeowners, $25,000. And then, of course, the other side of this is those of us that already own a home. Where's our money? I mean, what do we get out of that? But nobody believes that. Nobody in their right mind believes she'd be able to do that. There's no money for that. And it would mean that the taxpayers, like me and you, would be the ones that are paying this money. Or we could just say it's just a government printing press that just keeps printing money like it's like nothing, and that's driving up inflation. Kamala Harris has no understanding about basic economics and what's causing the high prices. And we're supposed to trust her with the economy? Her supporters are just liberal Democrats who would have voted for anybody that's got a Democrat name. It wouldn't matter who it is. And but the independents and the Republicans and the people that got any sense in this country saw through it, and they voted for Donald Trump. Well, I've gone a little longer on this video than I intended to, but I did want to make a video kind of giving my opinion about why the election turned out the way it did. I'm very happy about the results. I hope that you're happy about the results, but they are what they are, and it's great that it was a clear-cut winner, so we don't have to go through all this fighting over whether or not about election integrity. And another thing, too, I want to say, the very fact that Trump was able to prevail, at least it brings back some feeling that now we do have fair elections again. And because I don't believe that Trump, in the one thing about it, a lot of Americans question whether or not we have true election integrity. But the fact that Trump won this election, I feel like we can start looking at it like maybe they've got election security issues fixed, and maybe we can have a little bit more confidence in elections going forward. At least I hope that's the case. Well, I'm going to leave off with that. If you're not a subscriber to my channel, I invite you to subscribe. And thank you for watching this video. And Lord willing, I'll be back hopefully very soon with another video. God bless you, and take care.